Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Balance of Cinema, the show where we examine the good and bad of the art of making movies. I am Stephen, and this is my co-host Todd. Hello, Todd. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Steven.
That's good. Are you ready to talk about these two movies?
Yes.
Let's um let's get the more recent one out of the way. Our first movie ever that we're going to talk about is the movie Kraven. Kraven is an adaptation of the famous Spider-Man villain, Kraven the Hunter. The movie is directed by J.C. Candor, and it stars Kick-Ass's Aaron Taylor Johnson, Ariana DeBose. I really hope I said that correctly. Fred, oh my god, this is worse. Fred Heichinger, and Nicolas Cage's brother from the movie Face Off, and of course, for some reason, Russell Crowe.
Woo!
Kraven's complex relationship with his ruthless father, Nikolai Kravinoff, starts him down a path of vengeance with brutal consequences, motivating him to not only become the greatest hunter in the world, but also the most feared. Thanks, IMDb. This is a far cry from the comics where Kraven plays a guy bored with hunting animals and decides he wants to start hunting the most deadliest prey. Man. Spider-Man. Spider-Man doesn't seem to exist in this movie universe. Or maybe he does. It's never made clear. So instead, he fights greasy Russian mobster poachers and a nerdy Mormon-looking guy who can turn into another Spider-Man villain named Rhino. So this is the newest entry into the Sony. Uh, I forgot what it's called. The Sony, but there is no Spider-Man universe. And not only is this the latest installment, this seems to be the last installment because they just finally gave up. Um, After years of a very confusing slate of movies that just involved characters that were related to Spider-Man, but Spider-Man kind of has to be there for them to make sense. And really, only the Venom movies having any form of success, they just gave up, I guess. I guess we can kind of go over the Sony not Spider-Man verse for a little bit. We last year, me and you made a video ripping Madam Web to shreds. So, and hopefully, I stop being lazy and I get that video edited too. We did not like Madam Web. Safe to say.
Yeah, it's really set a standard as far as what a train wreck of a movie is.
Yeah. Will Craven be worse or better than that? We'll find out today. What do you think about the Venom movies?
Madam Web and Kraven the Hunter are my only two Sonyverse movies. I have not done my homework. I skipped the Venom movies. When my parents told me they had watched the Venom movie, I was like, "Why, guys? Guys, you really need to depend on me. I live and work in Hollywood. I can steer you right. Why are you watching the Venom movies?" But yeah, I'm a little curious. But instead of watching Venom, I watched Upgraded. Have you ever seen that?
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah,
Upgrade's great.
the trailer for Upgraded, or is it just Upgrade?
It's just Upgrade.
Uh, Upgrade, yeah. The trailer for that and the trailer for Venom looked so much like it was the same movie, except the Venom one, in post they drew Venom over him. I was like, oh, all right. But yeah, I really enjoyed Upgrade.
Yeah.
And I of course curious about Morbius. Uh, but uh, but but as with its Morbin time does not appear in Morbius, we have to tell fans or people interested that Craven never says I'm Craven the Hunt, during the movie. I'm Craven some action.
People keep making that joke. The movie never does.
They should just
So,
embrace the cheesiness.
so I have watched most of the other the only Sony movie that I've not seen was Venom 3 because I just kind of gave up at that point. I was just like, whatever.
Yeah.
So Venom 1, I liked when I watched it. I think it's fine. Um, Tom Hardy's really good in it, and it really feels like an early 2000s superhero movie.
Hmm.
Like when you like kind of look back at like the cheesiness of like the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans or like stuff like Daredevil or Fantastic Four, it like fits in like right there. Especially with like, like a lot of those movies like deliberately change things about the comics so it like fits like the writer's intent of it. It's Venom about Spider-Man, so it's like, oh, it's just Venom's just a symbiote. He doesn't even have like any symbol in his chest. He's naked. The closest thing they can really get to mentioning other Spider-Man stuff is when the the shuttle that's carrying the astronauts that brings the symbiotes to Earth, they just they're like, oh, we got oh, hey, get Jameson on the ambulance. Like that's it, because in the comics, J. Jonah Jameson's son is an astronaut. He's the astronaut that brings Venom back. Um, and then he also becomes a werewolf at one point.
Yeah.
Man wolf specifically. Not to be confused with Werewolf by Night. So I thought the first Venom movie was all right. And then I watched the second one. I was really excited for the second one because they got Woody Harrelson to play Carnage, and Carnage is like one of those characters that people have been wanting to see for years on the big screen. And I thought Woody Harrelson was a pretty good choice. I remember as a kid, it was like the fan cast was always Jim Carrey, but like that's like they never even get out close to like Jim Carrey ever being casted, or at least as far as I know. But the movie was like, I did not enjoy the movie. It like upped the shenanigans with like the comedic shenanigans of Venom, and like you have the Carnage, who's like this like very serious character, or like obviously like Carnage is kind of goofy because the character is a psychopath, but like just the tone didn't fit him, and he had like because he has Carnage in the comics, he has a girlfriend named Shriek who is a mutant, and in the movie they refer to her as a mutant, and that was weird because at that point even the MCU wasn't like able to say the word mutant, so I don't know how Sony got away with it.
Huh.
And their like kind of like back and forth relationship is not that great, so the whole villain angle is weird. And then just as someone who knows about Carnage, they like they did the exact opposite of like how Carnage is in the comics, where Carnage or Cletus Cassidy, the host of Carnage, is so insane and messed up that him and the symbiote have basically merged together. So most symbiotes refer to each other as we because they're referring to the host and the symbiote. But Carnage is so messed up that him and the symbiote, they say I. But
Yeah.
the movie makes it a big point to say that Carnage and Cletus aren't one. And that's why Eddie and Venom are stronger because they are one. So it's like kind of reversing the character there. But other than that though, it just wasn't that good of a movie. And then Venom, I heard like, oh yeah, if you like Venom 2 and 1, then you'll probably like 3. And it's like, okay, well, I was kind of lukewarm on 1 and 2 I didn't like. And Morbius just sucks. Just not any way around it. Morbius isn't good. I actually don't hate Jared Leto as an actor. I think he's had like quite a few good performances. Dallas Buyers
Sure.
Club, he's good. I haven't seen Requiem for a Dream, but like everyone talks about how great he is. I like it. I even like him in like something like Urban Legend, a movie he pretends he wasn't in. Um, so it's like I'm not like one of those people that are just like, oh god, Jared Leto's in the movie. As a person, I don't like him, but like as an actor, I think he can be a good actor sometimes. He's in a lot of bad movies, and he makes a lot of weird choices in his performances. Morbius is pretty bad though. The only saving grace of Morbius was Matt Smith. He plays the evil vampire of the movie, and like he has like some fun scenes in it. There's like the most famous scene from the movie, because nobody watched this movie, even though it had a popular meme. which the meme got so popular that it tricked Sony back into re-releasing the movie, and nobody saw it. Um, there's like a famous scene of like Matt Smith dancing because he has like he's not his vampire powers now, so it's like
Uh,
he's not disabled anymore, and like that's really it. That's all the movie has. So yeah, this universe was it started out all right, and then it just got progressively worse. And then like even though they did try the Spider Women in Madam Web, the various Spider Women or Spider Women and Spider Girls, they just kept focusing on Spider-Man villains, and it's like nobody cares about these villains outside of Spider-Man. Like Venom, sure, Venom was only a Spider-Man villain for like a year, and then he like became this huge like anti-hero character because it was the 90s. So this was like already off to a bad start, and then they were like, "Oh hey, we should make a movie about El Morte." And who's El Morte? He's the guy that's in 2 issues of Amazing Spider-Man, and that's it. From like 10 years ago. And they were going to make a movie about him. They ended up canceling it as long with the rest of the universe too. Anyways, I can rant about this kind of fail of a movie universe. Um,
yeah, yeah. I'm saddened to think. What I want to think is they're announcing that it's over is just a ruse. That they will get all of these guys in one big team up and finally go after their hated adversary Spider-Man that they just are going to learn about. And maybe Madam Web and her Spider Girls will team up to help Spidey, but they could have the Vulture and Morbius and Kraven, even though they all seem to be kind of good guys at Venom 2. Yeah, it's going to be I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe they finally realize that. I was really looking forward to a Sinister Six. I thought, oh, Sony's playing the long game. This is going to be great.
they've been wanting to make a Sinister Six movie for years. I remember when they were doing Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield, there was like, oh yeah, after Amazing Spider-Man 2, we're gonna get started in a Sinister Six movie. It's like, why do they get their own movie? They should just be the guys who fight Spider-Man in Spider-Man 3.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the Suicide Squad. They're only
Yep.
like the interesting thing about them is they team up to fight Spider-Man. Um,
Yep.
I know there's a comic called Superior Foes of Spider-Man that like
Yes.
focused on like a villain group, but the thing with them is like they were all like crappy villains, and it was like more of like a comedy, like
It was.
character
It
comic.
was actually a really good series that had a heist film kind of thing, and I
Yeah,
think that's one way to do it. Don't make them heroes necessarily. Just make them, bad guys who are petty criminals who just have a theme, and so
yeah.
yeah, yeah. The Superior Foes of Spider-Man is a great miniseries that was, a heist, you know, a flick basically. I'd love to see that movie. But yeah, they're all kind of in the crappier ones. They're like Boomerang and well, was in those?
Shocker is
Some,
the leader.
yeah, Chameleon, and yeah, it's interesting.
It's funny. Shocker is probably like the most like adapted Spider-Man villain because just every single Spider-Man game opens with you fighting Shocker as the first boss. I didn't play the new Insomniac Spider-Man game, but I think even though you defeated him in the first game, he's back. I think he's back in the second one.
It's a
Um,
shock.
out of like other than Venom, out of all the villains that I feel like could work in a solo movie, Kraven is one of them. Just because like there's like a lot of like interesting nuance you can do with him, but making him like the good guy anti-hero is a very weird decision. Like
Yeah.
he could work as like a tragic hero or like not a tragic hero. He could work as like a tragic person who like slowly becomes a villain, but kind of this idea of like, oh yeah, no, this guy's a good guy. It's a very weird thing to do with this character, especially making him like an animal lover.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, let's get into Craven. So, Todd, what'd you think about this movie?
Well, I liked the first half a lot more than I thought I would. I It flowed. I mean, granted, Madam Web kind of set a very low bar at so that, if a movie just isn't a complete train wreck, then it's like, oh, that was actually all right. Um, but it had a flow. It has a very long flashback that kind of dominates the first half of the movie,
Yeah.
and so that basically we meet Kraven the Hunter as he's become, kind of a Punisher character where he's going around killing bad guys. And then we flash back to see, yeah, this is who he is. He's the son of a gangster who fancies himself a big hunter, and he has this younger brother that he was protective of. And then we get his origin story, and I was on board for all of that. Yes, the animals always look CGI, but that's fine. That's fine if it's better really for the animals if they're all CGI animals in movies anyway. So they I was on board with it, and the second half, really after the big chase scene, that was actually I thought really impressive. Um, I liked what they had. The big chase scene in the middle of the movie. The problem though was there was one little ADR thing uh, where I believe it's supposed to be Craven saying, "Get the f out of my way." Uh, it seemed to come from nowhere, and
Yeah.
it obviously wasn't him, or at least him in the shot. And for the rest of the movie, all I could notice was the bad dubbing, the bad ADR, and with Calypso, and who is also somewhat based on a Spider-Man comic character. And so yeah, we had a lot of stuff, and it just started getting more and more silly in the second hour, and so that so even the big bad at the end was out and out laughable at times,
Yeah.
and so it all kind of falls apart. But if it wasn't the very end of the Sonyverse, it was kind of an interesting way that at the end, I was reading a lot of reviews where people were saying that Craven the Hunter doesn't change, doesn't have an arc, and I don't think that's true. I mean, when you say he's different at the end, the very ending scene is him accepting something that he was fighting against all his life, and it's kind of interesting. I mean, they could have done it better, but he is kind of realizing he's not a great person. That is really his little bit of an arc. Is that at
Well,
the end
he's
he's realizing,
constantly the movie has to keep spelling that out for you that that's what he's
yeah,
experiencing.
right, right, and he's kind of like, no, I'm killing bad guys, so I'm better than them, and that by the end of it, he's realizing I am my father's son. Uh, just the fact that I do things a little differently from him doesn't mean that results aren't still the same. I'm still doing what he did, just in a different way. And that the fact that in the end he's finally putting on his iconic vest. Uh,
He had to earn the vest.
yeah, yeah, and that it's based on an animal that he saw as almost god tier, that he had a connection with, that his father misunderstood as being his fear, and he never has that conversation I kept wanting him to have, where he's like, I wasn't afraid of this lion. I was appreciative. I had an apprehensive moment with the lion. I realized this is a almost mystical, godlike being. And the only reason it attacked me was because dad shot it while we were having this moment. And I thought that was actually good for an origin story. that he has a connection with an animal, and but like you said, it differs then from the story from the comics in that he's not a killer of animals; he's a killer of people who mistreat animals and other people. And so, yeah, it really does kind of set him up as a hero. So now the only way he could become an adversary of Spider-Man is if there's a misunderstanding that if he thinks Spider-Man is uh, is being bad to other people or animals, he might go after Spider-Man. But it would have to like somehow cross him in a way that he would think that Spider-Man needs to be taken out, and he
Yeah.
would have to rationalize that. That he has to kind of continue making this acceptance that he is a bad person, that his brother has accepted that for himself, and just his brother kind of tells him off, look, we are who we are, and you can't fight it, and which is a tragedy, really, in a lot of ways. But that they're kind of like, even though they've come through their full becoming adults, that they are not escaping their father entirely in the end. They're like, well, we are who we are, and so that is a good enough setup for a villain. And the tragedy really is that, well, now we won't see what happens. We're going to need AI to put it together for us, I guess.
I get a lot of the points that you're making, but it's just like I did not enjoy my experience watching this movie for the 2 times that I watched this. So it's like a
That's
lot of
totally
like
fair.
I understand like a lot of the points you're making, but just like the whole time I'm like the movie did like a bad job at everything.
Oh, right,
Um,
right. Yeah, it's great. It's yeah, for certainly. I enjoyed a lot of the chase scenes. I like whenever he scales buildings or jumps down buildings or jumps on
yeah,
cars. He's kind of he's this prey the predator animal, and that occasionally it looked a little cartoony, and but I was rolling with it, with very low standards, but uh, and kind of, yeah, there's the lost potential and everything. But yeah, it did just continually get silly.
yeah,
Like the big bad actor, I kind of liked how he's kind of diminutive, quiet, and he's like a boss.
yeah,
He's like a lot of people I've worked with, and which is kind of unnerving. And then to have him kind of turn into this almost cartoonish CGI character is is laughable, but
yeah.
uh,
I
but I,
very
I
much want to talk about what they did with Rhino.
yeah, yeah.
Um, for me, the movie I like I said like the beginning was like the opening was like the first like 7 or so minutes like from when he gets arrested to when he breaks out of the prison. That was like put on YouTube. And
Mhm.
so for just from that, like a lot of people were like, "Oh my god, this movie." And I like when I saw like the initial trailers for this and I kind of heard about the movie, all I really wanted was just like kind of like a gory action movie.
Mm.
So like the first like action scene I thought was like all right. And it's like, okay, maybe this will be like fun and enjoyable. And then like you said, you get a really prolonged flashback sequence of him and his brother as kids and Russell Crowe. Um, I always like to say that like Russell Crowe's the current day Marlon Brando, where it's just like he can give 10% and it's like better than like 90% of the actors that are working right now.
Right.
Um, and I don't want to be mean, but I am also fat, so I feel like I can make this joke. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to have like a body like ever since I watched Gladiator and Cinderella Man, like I want to have a body like Russell Crowe. And now I do. He just had to catch up to me. And so it's just weird like that's like another Marlon Brando connection there, where it's just like, yeah, he just let himself go, and it's like, okay, whatever. We have Russell Crowe in the movie, it doesn't matter. And so he's just playing like this very generic like Russian mobster who like always like he's always just talking about no, I can't show fear, that'll make me look. He's always like talking about like weakness and stuff like that. And the dialogue is just like so like generic and cliche with him, and like he's just like the standard like abusive dad. and I really could not get into his character at all, and it sucks because like I really do like Russell Crowe. Um, but where the movie like really lost me was I just like laughed in the theater was when the lion bled into Kraven. And there was like a couple seconds where I'm like, "Oh my god, is that how he gets his powers? A lion blood mixed with him?" They do they do explain later on that like, oh no, and they show it too as Calypso gives him like the plant, which in the comics, I don't know if this is true or not. This is something I probably should have looked this up. Isn't like his like plant isn't like the plant that gives him strength the same one from Wakanda?
Oh, I don't know. I hadn't
Okay.
heard that. It's
Maybe
interesting.
that's like a later thing that they because Marvel
Yeah,
will be like, oh yeah, actually, this was
yeah,
adamantium from this area, and it's like, oh okay,
yeah. It sounds like a retcon for sure.
yeah. Um, so I don't. That's my fault for not looking. Most of what I know from Craven comes from the animated Spider-Man cartoon. I really need to read Craven's Last Hunt. I've got it from the library multiple times and never
Oh,
sat down to read
oh,
it.
Kraven's Last Hunt is good. It is the gory action movie you wanted. It's also got a, philosophical bent.
Yeah,
It's very
and
good.
he fights Spider-Man in it, so it sounds like
Yeah.
everything I wanted. um,
Yeah, I could totally tell that the Kraven the Hunter poster, at least the one on Letterboxd, is definitely got, the star, in the same pose that he is on the cover of, The Last Hunt. Is just excellent.
which
They're
Aaron
nice
Taylor
reference.
Johnson said he wanted to do the last Craven's Last Hunt with Tom Holland, and it's like, you know, you're already in one of these movies, right?
Oh my god, yes. Yeah, well, I
We,
guess Spidey and Quicksilver didn't hang out that much together, so
yeah, I mean, like the guy who was the main villain for the first half of Luke Cage was going to be Blade, so I guess it doesn't really matter in the
right,
end.
right.
Um,
And of course, Craven's dad is also Zeus.
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So yeah, it's all getting mixed up. He's also Jor-El, so it's
Yeah.
okay. It's
Um, I
this is really the worst of the 3, I guess. I
oh yeah, I think
if this
so too.
depends on how
Yeah,
you
this is
hated.
worse than Man of Steel. I don't like Man of Steel, which I'm sure we'll talk about that eventually.
Yeah,
But yeah, this is worse. I could say full confidence this is worse than Man of Steel. Um, I feel like most people will agree with me.
yeah, yeah.
um, but Aaron Taylor Johnson in this movie, who plays Craven, wasn't actually like that bad. I mean, it's cool to see how far he's come since Kick Ass because that was like the first thing I saw. Actually, no, I lied. The first thing I saw him in was in Shanghai Nights,
Ah,
where he plays Charlie Chaplin in the 1850s,
nice.
which doesn't make any sense. but um but anyways, yeah, Kick Ass was like where I first started noticing him, and then like I'd seen pop up in other movies. Um he was in Godzilla, where I thought he wasn't very good in, but then he's like in stuff like Tenet and Bullet Train, where I think he is pretty good.
Yeah,
So he definitely didn't like sleepwalk the role. He definitely tried. Um, Someone in this movie I will say that I feel didn't do the best was Ariana DeBose, who, if she had not won an Academy Award, I would have just assumed she's a bad actress at this point.
right.
Because of this and another movie that came out recently called Love Hurts with Ki Hu Kwan, which I thought was was a decent movie. It has issues, but like I enjoyed it. Um, she's the love interest in it, and her and Key have like no chemistry, and she's like, she does like really bad job at like the funny dialogue and the badass dialogue. And so just based off these two performances, I would just assume that she's not that good, but I know she has to be good if she's winning Oscars and stuff.
Right.
The only other thing I've seen her in was in Hamilton, where most of her performance is is dancing or doing backup vocals. So it's very hard to gauge her performance off of that. Um, For those that don't know, in Hamilton, she's the person who kills Hamilton because she plays the bullets.
Ooh.
And I don't know why I can't pronounce his name, but Freddie Heikinger. Yeah, I think that's it, Heikinger, who plays his brother. Which I didn't write down
Yes.
his name because I didn't think anybody would care. Because if you know
Dimitri,
anything about
really?
if you know anything about the comics, he's the chameleon.
Yes,
Which
and the movie it sets a lot of plot points by when Dimitri's birthday. There feels like every other scene is Dimitri's birthday.
yeah. And this I guess I must have forgot about this, but in this rewatch, his dad literally just calls him a chameleon, and it's like, okay,
Right.
that's way too on the nose there. And it's like it's not even related to like him being like a good like impersonator or anything. It was just him like, oh yeah, he's really good at singing show tunes. And it's like, maybe like have him like be like I don't know, like a stand-up comedian and he just good impressions. That would have been dumb too. I don't know what I'm talking about. Before I can kind of get into a little bit more about him towards the end of the movie, I will say this that like did you watch Gladiator 2?
No, no, I skipped it.
Okay. So he in Gladiator 2, he's one of the Caesars. The other one is Joseph Quinn, who's going to be the Human Torch. And then he
Oh,
was Eddie Munson in Stranger. I didn't watch season 4 of Stranger Things, but I know that's what made him popular. But they were the two Caesars, and they're like both like really like annoying, but they're supposed to be like annoying characters. And I feel like in this one, Freddie Heichner, he's not supposed to be annoying, but like he just came off as like the little tag-along brother the whole movie. And even like when he's getting like tortured, I'm just I couldn't like find like any reason to like care about him. Like I said, we need to talk about the Rhino a little bit before we can get back to the end of him. So what do you think about how they portray? Well, you already kind of mentioned it. You said
yeah,
you said
I
he
kind of have.
reminded you of one of his of a lot of bosses you've had, which I kind
Yeah,
of get it now when you put
that's
it that
right.
way.
He's kind of yeah, he seems very kind of he looks comfortable in an office, and yet he's some kind of underlord guy. He's very quiet. It would appear, to kind of be on the spectrum. He he likes his dog.
Yeah,
He's very uh but he has this kind of he was playing it that he has this tension like always underneath, and that people didn't quite understand him. And and of course Russell Crowe's character had brushed him aside in the flashback, so we see he's kind of built his own empire. Uh, but uh, but of course
he's
he's got this thing,
he's
and
he's basically Aldrich Killian from Iron Man 3.
yeah, yeah, and basically he goes, instead of like I'm going to make everybody into bombs, his thing is we are all animals inside of us. You got to pick one. I'm a rhino. You're a chameleon. Your brother's a lion. Oh no. Yeah,
um,
they should have just extended that metaphor. It goes, oh, I see our problem. The hunter is a lion.
um, so once again, a lot of my Spider-Man knowledge comes from games or like the various cartoons and stuff. So I I was very confused about this, and I actually put like a little bit of reading into this. I always thought like the Rhino costume was like a suit, but
Yes.
apparently, apparently sometimes it is just him like getting like chemical enhancements, and it is like a hot. I'm not sure basically if like in the comics it's supposed to be a suit or it's supposed to be, oh yeah, it's a hide that grew over his skin.
Right. Originally, it was a costume, but in those early 60s Spider-Mans, a lot of the villains are people who got put in a costume and they're stuck in it.
Yeah,
They don't appear to
that's
be
what
able
happened to
to ever
Scorpion.
take it off. With all of the problems that would happen in being stuck in such a costume. But that was just kind of their thing. That was the Scorpion, that was Rhino, that was a bunch of things. But eventually they would have to retcon it and say, "Oh, okay, well, they've kind of mutated into this thing."
Yeah.
But
Which in this one leads more to the mutation part. So basically, the rhino was they do that movie thing where it's like, oh, I have a disease, but like, oh, there's no name for it because we're making up bullshit. So he had like a debilitating disease that basically left him like feeble, and because he wants to be like a high level like mobster, and like you said, he was pushed aside by Craven's dad. He like went to go get he basically went out to go look for power, and he came across a doctor who, do you know who the doc do you did you notice who the doctor was? They only said like his last name, but
yes, Warren, and that's the Jackal, I believe,
yes.
from Spidey comic.
Which, when I went to go see this movie in theaters, I was the only one in there, so I didn't feel bad about taking my phone out every now and then. So I like immediately typed his name, like, oh, it's the Jackal. Okay, interesting. Um, and so basically he spliced rhino DNA into him, and so if he doesn't, he has this I keep calling it a camel back. I keep calling it a camel pack because it reminds me of one of those backpacks where it has like a hose in it and you can like drink water out of it. Honestly, his whole like outfit like kind of reminds me of Dwight from The Office. And there was an episode where he has like one of those backpacks, and like Jim is making fun of him for it. So I just saw Dwight every time I saw him. Um, and then when I would remember who he was, I would just be like, "Oh yeah, he's Paul Troy from Face Off," one of my favorite
Well,
Nicolas Cage movies. um, and So he basically, instead of drinking the hose, he has like the hose connected to like a little port on like the side of his body, like he's like a David Cronenberg character. Like this is
right.
like, you ever watch Extends?
Oh yes.
Yeah, where they have like the port in their back.
Oh yeah.
that's I finally watched that. That's a good movie. It's
Oh yeah.
freaky. Um, but yeah, he basically stabs his port, which is important for later. He sticks his hose in his port, and if he takes the hose out, his serum stops pumping into his body, and he turns into Rhino Man. Which I feel like this is a hot take. Rhino has been adapted twice, and neither times did they have like the open face thing. It's never just, oh, he's a suit and then he has like an open face plate. It's,
Right.
oh, I'm in a Rhino mech suit, or oh, I'm a mutant Rhino Man. Um,
Well, that Paul Giamatti's appearance in Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man, at the end, he's got his face somewhat exposed
oh
there.
yeah, he has to open it.
Yeah, yeah, cockpit wise, yeah,
But I think both of those are sillier than just having a guy in a Rhino suit.
yeah, yeah.
I think if you just got like a big guy that wears a rhino suit, it's gonna look silly. But like so did both of those options. So it's like, why not just, oh yeah, whatever. At least he's comic accurate looking.
Right. And the
um
fact that the comic costume is, if you did it comic accurate, the guy's face is actually the mouth of the rhino, which is kind of hilarious because the
yeah.
costume has the eyes of the rhino above his face, and so then his face is coming out of the mouth, so he actually does look like a hilarious mascot. But again, I'm with you. That would be hilarious. I'd be all in on it.
Other than like, there's like one or two scenes where like he like takes off the thing, and like, there's one scene where like he basically goads someone into shooting him, but like he's already starting to mutate, so like it just bounces off of his skin. Um so at the end you finally get the confrontation between him and Craven. Also, another nitpick, he kept his pants, and it's like, no, he has to be fully naked. He's not the Hulk.
Right. And I
Um,
think you're right calling him Rhino Man because that's kind of what he was playing. He was Rhino Man, not just
yeah.
Rhino.
And it's funny how he defeats him because, like I said, he has that little port. So it's like, oh, I guess that port doesn't get covered. Well, yeah, I guess it wouldn't get covered because you would need to plug it in um, to cure himself. So Craven, I can't remember. Does he stick a knife in there or does he stick like an animal horn in there?
He sticks something that he tore off the bottom of an overturned truck.
Okay, so he just sticks like a piece of truck in it. And like
Yeah.
that's enough to basically weaken him and then he's able to kill him. It's like I was like kind of excited for the fight, to be honest. Like that was like a moment where like I was like, oh, maybe this will be fun. Like it'll just be a big like CGI brawl. But it doesn't last that long and it's over pretty quick. So it's like I
Mhm.
didn't like it wasn't as fun as I was hoping. Um but he's not the only villain in this movie. Because they brought in famous Spider-Man villain, the Foreigner, who is a guy I didn't know about this movie until I looked up the cast list a couple months before it came out, and I'm like, "Oh, Christopher Abbott from Poor Things. I like that guy." And then I was like, "Who the hell is the Foreigner?" So I look it up. It's a '70s Spider-Man villain. It's one of the many Marvel like martial arts guys villains. Um, I actually didn't know this at the time, but he has like this hypnotic thing where like he looks in your eyes and it basically freezes you in place while he counts to three and he's able to easily kill you. I thought they made that up for the movie, but no, that's part of his comic powers. Is he knows like hypnosis. Were you familiar with
Yeah,
this character at all?
I am not. I am kind of shocked that this one passed me by because I thought I was pretty well versed. But I see, let's see, it was from the 80s.
Oh, he's from the eight. I thought he was from. I think he was like 77. I must be thinking someone
80s
else.
Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man. So yeah, he was they kind of make him look a lot like the Punisher. In fact, I totally would have thought this was the Punisher. The
That's
way
another
they
reason why I thought he was the '70s guy because it's like, oh, he's probably like, oh, I want to have a Punisher in my comic too.
Yeah,
Or like the writer wanted to use the Punisher, but the guy who was writing the Punisher comics, like,
right.
no, you can't use him.
Yeah, he looks exactly like the Punisher. Just he doesn't have the skull on his chest. So in fact,
Is
it looks like he has an F. He has an F on his chest.
orator, which is which it's funny because he's American in this. It would be funny if he's American in the comics, because then it's like, yeah, I'm the foreigners, like, but you're in your country of origin.
he he was formerly married to Silver Sable, and of course we
Yeah,
know Silver Sable. So
yeah.
all right, Silver Sable's ex, the foreigner who looks like the Punisher, and he can hypnotize people. That's it's fascinating. Yeah, I liked that guy. He was creepy. He had a neat power, and so that was a great showdown, much better than the Rhino showdown.
Yeah.
Uh,
I like the actor. There's still some more movie. He's in like one of Brandon Cronenberg's movies. Oh my god, I forgot what it's called.
I've seen him in a few things.
He was in The
He's
Wolfman most recently, a movie that
yeah.
I saw a test screening for. And I was like, this movie's really good. I can't wait for everybody else to watch it. And then nobody liked it. And it's like, oh,
Yeah,
guess
he
someone
was
won't.
in It Comes at Night. It Comes at Night was pretty good. It
Yeah,
was
that's a pretty underrated movie. The marketing screwed that movie up really bad. The title of that movie screwed that movie up really bad. All the
yeah.
marketing of the time, but by the way, nothing comes at night. There's
Yeah.
no secret monster. It is a movie. It is a post-apocalyptic movie about a virus, and it focuses on like kind of like keeping your humanity and hospitality in like this like situation where like, do you trust people? Um, is it worth trusting people to protect your family and stuff like it like focuses on those themes. It's a really good drama, but it was sold as a horror movie, and so a lot of people were
Right.
turned off by it. But he's pretty good in it. Poor Things he's good in. I think he's good in Wolfman. Possessor was the movie that I was trying to think the name of, and I heard that's a really good movie. I have yet to watch it though. Um, He's also in a movie of Margaret Qualley where she plays a dominatrix.
Huh. And he's
And
the star of he's the star of the Catch 22 miniseries. And that makes me curious because it's interesting to see him, and that is Yossarian, the lead character.
so yeah, I think it's just because I like the actor that I was like, I thought the Foreigner was an alright character.
Yeah,
Um, he does the most damage to Kraven. He infects him with something that basically makes him see his worst fear, which is
and
actually
that's
his
the
mom's
new
worst
word.
fear.
Yes, he's actually an arachnophobe.
Yeah,
Surprise, surprise.
which it's
We
like
didn't
the only,
know.
it's the only connection to Spider-Man in this. Where he's afraid of spiders,
Wait a
like a
minute.
guy we know.
There was a moment while he's undergoing that arachnophobia sequence. He flashes back to his mother crying in the insane asylum, and she's saying the spiders, and I felt like, did that happen, or are they just flashing back to something we didn't see
Yeah,
before? And but I thought that was good. That was interesting. But I wish there was more of that.
yeah, it never comes up again
Right.
before or after. That's just
I
it.
am I'm a friend to all beasts. I protect the animals from the evil men. But spiders, oh God, spiders, burn them with fire, burn them with fire.
Like Ace Ventura, where he loves all animals except bats.
Yeah,
The movie is basically Kraven just trying to kill like Russian men that are connected to his father. Then he comes across the Rhino, who also wants revenge on his father. He kidnaps his brother, and they fight. Kraven kills the Rhino. Um, he kind of sort of has a love interest with Calypso, but I don't they don't even kiss or anything, do they?
no, no, they're more just kind of allies.
Yeah.
Which begs the question: who is the woman that picks him up in the plane?
Yeah.
We don't get anything about her. We don't even see her face.
Yeah. I thought it was her, but like now I think about it, I don't they didn't have that kind of relationship. They're just
No,
kind of
because
throwing information at each other.
now I was hoping that that's Silver Sable.
Who,
That
funnily
yeah, I
enough,
was
is a character that probably could have her own movie and it make sense without Spider-Man.
yeah,
Same thing
yeah,
with
I was
Black
really
Cat.
looking.
It's like she's just a thief that just wears a cat suit and has white hair. Then comes the end of the movie. So he finishes off his father. He has a final conversation with him. But oh no, he took his bullets. And then a grizzly bear charges at him and kills him. It's one of my least favorite tropes I mean, it can be done well sometimes, but it's one of my least favorite tropes where it's like, I killed 100 people to get to you, but I don't want to be like you, so I'm not going to kill you. And it's like, well, no, you passed that point already. Um, and then like you're saying, it does tie into the whole thing of his arc where he just, he accepts that he's a bad person, just like his father. And then it's not really an after credit scene, but like basically the movie's over at this point. He goes to see his brother, and now his brother's acting like a bad guy. And then he chases after his brother, like tells him off and says like, "Oh yeah, you're just as evil as dad. Bye." And he chases after him, and when he turns him around, so the actor playing his brother is like has to be like 5'6", and Erling Taylor Johnson is like a big fucking dude. So he turns him around, and on the short, skinny guy is Aaron Taylor Johnson's big head. And there's a bunch of people walking around. Nobody else sees this but Craven.
Right.
And his brother basically tells him like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I went to go talk to the doctor, and yeah, he helped me out." So it's like, did the doctor put like chameleon DNA in him or something? What did the doctor do to him that gave him face changing powers?
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
that Miles Warren, he's pretty good.
is like, as far as I know, he has like the chameleon like uses like Mission Impossible masks, and like he has like a belt that like creates holograms and stuff like that. This dude can just change his face and that's it. What happens if he needs to impersonate like a guy taller than him?
Yeah. Yeah, he's gonna have to wear lifts.
Yeah. And then of course I feel like this was a reshoot. Like they're like, oh yeah, hey, we need to put this in so the comic nerds are happy. When his face changes back for a second or for a couple seconds, it's the classic chameleon white face.
Yeah,
Um, but it looks just really CGI. And I
yeah.
don't even know if it was CG. Like, is it that hard to put a bald cap on him and paint his face white? Todd, you work in Hollywood. Why do they waste money like this?
I don't know. They just they put more and more on post. Pretty much, with AI, they won't do any production. They'll do it all in post. Is where we're headed. So
Yeah, it reminds me of in Spider-Man: Far From Home. Which I'm assuming maybe Samuel Jackson was busy. He couldn't leave LA or Georgia or wherever they're filming it. So he's just in a room. Like he's in a room that you build a set for. It would take like maybe a day, maybe even less. And it's a CGI room and he has like a prop, like an unfinished prop of a gun. It's like they couldn't even make a prop tranquilizer gun. They had to CGI that in post. It's like ridiculous.
yeah, yeah. They just
Uh,
they screw over the graphics artists so much that it's cheaper to dump everything on them.
yeah. Hey, you have 3 months. Can you fix this movie? It's like, oh, sure. Do you have any reference? It'd be cool if we're on set so we can like, see lighting. No, you can't be on set. Um,
Yeah, and one thing I noticed about the Rhino is that when he goes full Rhino, he's much taller than he actually is. So they
yeah,
don't really explain how that works. His skin like grayed over, and then of course he's got the two horns that I wasn't expecting, and now he's like grown a foot or two.
which like the skin makes sense, but why would he grow a horn?
No.
It makes sense that like, well, I mean, it doesn't make sense, but like I can get his body turning into like, like hide, like a tough hide. But like, why would he
Yeah.
grow a horn?
Yep.
This is just you found more to like about this movie than I did. I just these two times watching it, I just not enjoying my experience with it. I kind of wish this universe kept going because I would like to see just what stupid bullshit they came up with, but like these movies
Right.
just aren't good, man.
Right. Obviously, they just not making enough money for them to say, all right, now we're doing a whole team up. Let the fanboys tear this one apart because that would be really fun.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, like
solo train wrecks having a pile up train of a whole bunch of train wrecks. Come on, let's go.
maybe they think if they put Venom in it, that'll just make everything that'll like cover it. It's like, oh well, people like Venom at least.
Yeah, and all the characters will get infected with the Venom symbiote, so they'll all become symbiotes. And then you don't actually have to have the actors there. You can just have the CGI team go to work. Chop chop.
Any final thoughts on Craven?
Yeah, yeah. It's too bad that I mean I hope Aaron Taylor Johnson gets his wish and gets to play the last hunt
Mhm.
with a Spider-Man actor. That would be awesome. Uh, but yeah, yeah, we'll see. I was always back even in the early days, back when with the early 2000s. I was like, I'm gonna start writing the Sinister Six screenplay now because I see that's where we're headed. This is gonna be great. And of course, I just dreamed about it, and then I'm kind of sad we never actually got there. I mean, No Way Home is kind of close. We
Yeah,
did get some baddies all brought together, and Spidey
it's
helped it
Sinister
out.
5.
Yeah, yeah, so it was kind of there. Um, but yeah, it's been a fun trip for Spider-Man fans, and I admit that when I saw the bad chameleon face there for a moment, I was like, "Oh, it's the chameleon! Yay!" But yeah,
It's better when the MCU does where it's like they wear their costume, but they're wearing a jacket over it, and it's like, oh, but why'd you give him the costume then?
right, right, right. Yeah, yeah. They even do that in the comics sometimes. Where like Rogue got to wearing a leather jacket all the time, So she's still got the green and yellow spandex, but she's wearing a jacket over it. Like, girl, come on, let's go. In the leather jacket, I guess. But even Wonder Woman started doing it for a while. They started drawing her with a trench coat over her costume.
Yeah, Power Girl, she had a jacket for a bit.
Yeah, yeah,
It's when she had the
yeah,
pants.
yeah, yeah.
Anyways, yeah, not a fan. But we move on to a movie that both of me and you are a fan of. And
Oh
it is,
yeah.
make sure I got the date because I was dumb. I didn't do the date. I believe it's 99. Yeah.
Yep, 99. Possibly the last superhero movie of the 20th century.
Yep. Um, did this, I will actually leave in me looking this up. Did Batman and Robin come out before it?
Yes, yes, it did.
Oh, yeah,
I my
97. Wow.
my theory is that one of the reasons why this movie bombed when it came out and why it looks the way it does, it is, I think, Mystery Men is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Mystery Men is a reaction to Joel Schumacher's two Batman movies, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin in 95 and 97. And so then this came out in 99 and it has that aesthetic. It's a little more ramped up than say the Tim Burton two Batman movies. It's got the neon and colors and just the super darkness, and but it has this universe of accepted lore. And so Mystery Men is basically a parody of the Joel Schumacher Batman movies, and because that had kind of run their course, that people weren't very happy with Batman and Robin, with George Clooney, and so when Mystery Men came out, everyone was kind of done with it. But here, they were kind of like setting the stage for the new era, the new century, the modern era of superhero movies. That I guess, what do you think? Did that begin with X Men?
Yeah,
And
a little bit with Blade, but people also didn't know that Blade was a comic book movie.
right, right.
It was just
So
a
yeah,
cool action horror movie with Wesley
yeah.
Snipes.
So like X Men in 2000, and then Tobey Maguire's Spider Man in 2002. So yeah, we were kind of, things were going to start looking more realistic, and whereas the '90s had given us, Tim Burton's take of like, look, they should be really gothic and have this unreal style, so everyone realizes this is a comic book movie, and so we're in this comic book universe that's going to be all style and stylized, and so once we made it into the present modern era, this century, everything's looking a lot more realistic, and of course, I'm happy with that. But I
Yeah.
love Mystery Men. I when it didn't do well, I thought, well, it's because they just made the movie for me, and I can't buy that many tickets.
For those that aren't familiar with Mystery Men, here's a little rundown of the plot. It's a very quick one. Uh, when the Champion City's hero, Captain Amazing, played by Greg Kinnear, is kidnapped by the recently paroled supervillain Casanova Frankenstein, played by Jeffrey Rush. Jeffrey Rush. Of course, most famous for being Tomare in the Green Lantern movie. Also, Captain Barbossa in the Pirates of the Caribbean series.
Oh, yes,
Um,
yes.
a trio of average everyday superheroes, Mr. Furious, played by Ben Stiller, the Shoveler, played by William H. Macy, and the Blue Raja, played by Hank Azaria, assemble a new team to save him, featuring a great cast that also includes Kel Mitchell, Paul Rubens, aka Pee Wee Herman, Janine Garofalo, Wes Studi, and Eddie Izzard. Eddie Izzard is not part of the team. I just wanted to point out that they're in the movie. By the way, I wanna get this stated from the get-go. I am aware that Eddie Izzard is genderqueer. I mean, if you're familiar with their comedy, it's not like a shock or anything. Um, and Eddie, which they go by Susan, too, has said that while they prefer she promo or she her promos, I think I got it wrong.
Mm.
Sorry. It's a serious topic, so I'm kind of nervous to discuss it. They're okay with any pronouns, And since Eddie is playing a male character in this one, I'm going to use male pronouns just so I don't get like mixed up or anything.
Right.
But yeah, I just wanted to state that. So I don't want you guys to think we're being dicks because we keep calling him he.
I mean, he in the movie he plays one of the disco boys.
Yeah. Tony P. And then there's Tony C. Who I think Tony C is one of the Fugees.
Right, right.
I heard that from the commentary. Which is funny. They also have the Goody Mob in this movie, who I'm not familiar with the Goody Mob, but one of the members of the Goody Mob is CeeLo Green, who's very successful
Right.
musician.
Right, right. And
Um,
what always catches me off guard is that Michael Bay plays
yeah,
one of the frat boys. I can't believe every time I watch the movie, which is often, and every time I watch it, I'm like, "Is that Michael Bay? Oh my god, it's
it's
Michael Bay."
it's funny because Michael Bay looks like a very normal person. So like whenever you're watching a movie and there's just like a normal person that gets like a prominent shot, you're like, oh, is he the director? Oh, is he a producer? Is that someone's relative? So I watched Armageddon all the way through for the first time a couple of weeks ago. And Michael Bay pops up in like the beginning of the movie, and I was like, "Oh, there he is!" Just right away, I spotted him. Um, it's funny too because he's looked 40 for so long, so it's like him being one of the frat boys is funny. Um, his one line, "Can we bring the brewskis?" And Casanova Frankenstein is, "Of course you could bring the
Brisky.
brewskis." As Todd was explaining, this very much takes a lot of cues from like the superhero movies of the day, mainly the Joel Schumacher Batman films. Um the 90s was a weird period for superhero movies because they're finally starting to do them. The 70s, like the 40s and the 50s, they had a lot of serials with superheroes: Captain America, Green Hornet, Superman, Batman, um Shazam. Okay, I'm gonna stop naming ones. Um, sorry, Captain Marvel. Um, there was never really like superhero movies, and then like the 70s happened, and they started making. Well, obviously the Batman show in the 60s, but like it was really to the 70s, so they started making like superheroes for adults. So like they had the Wonder Woman TV show, they had the Incredible Hulk TV show, they had two television films for Captain America. They had a Doctor Strange movie, and they had a Spider-Man show, which not a lot of people know about. Um, that was a weird period. The late 70s, early 80s, they had two Spider-Man shows, the Japanese one and the American one. At some point in the 80s, they started making actual like superhero movies, like Swamp Thing, which I watched once a couple years ago and I thought it was pretty good. And of course, 1989's Batman, which was like a huge landmark movie. And oh my god, I forgot about the big one, Superman.
Superman?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
You could
can't
believe
believe
it.
I was. Which
Yeah,
Superman was?
78 really big, and that was yeah, that was a big that's still, like, one of my favorites. It's
Yeah,
just done so well.
it's probably the most influential superhero movie of all time. Which I mean, it
Yeah.
helps because it was one of the first, and it did its job well. It's a timeless movie, to be honest. Um, and so because of Batman, studios were like, "Oh my god, we can make money off these stupid kitty books." And of course, there was a turn in the mid 80s where comic books were starting to be taken seriously as like literature for adults, much to Alan Moore's chagrin, because he wanted to use comics as a medium to tell like adult stories, and then they're just like, "Oh, we'll do that, but we'll do that with Batman." We'll just keep making Batman stories, but and I say this as a Batman fan, so I'm not exactly against that idea, but we had like a Russian movies. At first, they weren't really doing Marvel or DC. Like there was a Flash TV show and like, not mid 90s or Superman TV show, but they were doing like older like pulp comics or like pulp throwback. I was going to bring up The Rocketeer. The Rocketeer is a comic from the 80s actually. But like The Phantom, The Shadow, Phantom is a perfect movie for this show because I love the Phantom. um, Meteor Man, that's not necessarily a comic movie, but Meteor might as well mention throughout Meteor Man. Um, and of course, continuing with the Batman movies. Superhero movies kind of weren't taken seriously until Blade, and people don't know that Blade is a comic book movie, so. But then, around the time X-Men came out, they started to take them a little bit more seriously, and now we're still in that boom period. Um, but as Todd was saying, this movie is heavily influenced by like what were considered like the big ones at the time, which is the Batman movies. And it's you said like this was heavily influenced about it. Not only was it like clearly heavily influenced by it, they literally shot on Batman and Robin sets, which I
Not
kind of
surprising.
yeah, which I kind of noticed like I was like paying attention like some of like the street sets are very clearly Gotham City.
Hmm.
Um so yeah, Mystery Men is a weird movie because the production it really seemed like nobody knew what movie they wanted to make. Apparently that went with the actors too. A lot of the actors like kind of fought with each other over the tone of the movie. And the guy who directed this, Kinka Usher, he's like a commercial director. And so he wasn't used to like all like, the standard bullshit you have to deal with actors. When you do a commercial, it's like, hey, stand here, say this line, do a shot. Okay, 2 days later, we're done.
Yeah,
It's like,
it was his only movie, Kinka's only movie, and so I'm a fan, but yeah,
yeah, he did
it
a good job.
it was a $68 million budget, and it only grossed 33 million, so it didn't do well.
But personally, I think this is a really funny movie. Like you said, it's ahead of its time. I don't think they really knew what they were making, which it was just like this time capsule of like kind of poking fun at like the infancy of like superhero movies and just like the overtop garishness of it, while kind of like making fun of like superhero tropes. And plus, like with like things like Kick Ass and stuff like that, like we did like start to see like a little rise of like the little guy as a superhero. So the thing with the Mystery Men, they're all pretty pathetic.
Right,
The
in the
sh-
comic books, origins, the source material had them cannon fire. That they or sorry, cannon fodder.
yeah,
They would die off as soon as they would like they would be given outrageous names, they would be really silly concepts, and then they would die pretty easily because, they were low bottom tier superheroes, and they were, blue collar and they were that was kind of the funny thing. It's like, oh, these are guys that, you know, aren't the big heavy hitters, and of course they're not going to last very long.
yeah.
And so, in a lot of ways, it kind of, I think, uh, a closer to the source material adaptation would be what we saw in James Gunn's the Suicide Squad, where you introduce your guys and then right away they're getting picked off, and so you're like, oh no. They're like, "Oh, well, no, we love these characters. These are our guys." And I think that's why you and I love it so much is that we like, "Oh yeah, lame superheroes. That could be us."
Yeah, the Mystery Men they come from the comic The Flaming Carrot, written and drawn by Bob Burden.
Yeah,
And
I've spoken to him like a good 3 times.
you ever bring up Mystery Men to him?
Yeah, well, yes, but it was mainly always like talking to him about how I first met him because he had a '60s comic character, Herbie Popnecker, on the cover of the Flaming Carrot, and I love Herbie, and so I bought it from him, not realizing he was the writer, creator, artist. I thought he was just selling the comic, and so when he started signing the cover, I was like, "Oh no, 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 no! What are you doing?" And then realized, "Oh, you're the guy. Oh, okay, all right, sure." And so I always like seeing him, and he's a very friendly guy.
To quickly go over some of the powers, there's the Blue Raja, played by Hank Azaria, who you might remember him as like basically every character in The Simpsons. It's not voiced by the guy who voices Homer. He voices Moe, Chief Wiggum. Um, oh my god, I forgot what one of the cops, one of Chief Wiggum's cops as well.
Oh,
Um, Lou, Lou
Lou.
Snake, comic book man, Superintendent Chalmers, like quite like a wealth of like super
Yeah.
Simpsons characters. This was during a period where he got to be in movies. I actually, so I side tangent. It's gonna happen a lot in these shows. I was trying to look up like YouTube videos of like the actors talking about the movie, and I can only find two. And it's Wes Studi, who plays the terribly mysterious Sphinx, and Hank Azaria, who plays Buraja. And Hank Azaria is talking about this movie. He's basically like, yeah, I got popular enough that I got to be a lead in movies, and I was in this Mystery Alaska, and oh my god, what was the other one? Oh, Godzilla.
Yeah.
And all those movies failed, so I stopped being a lead actor. This was the best one out of all of them, though, and that's all he said about Mystery Men. He didn't talk about the character or
Yay.
anything. um, but Blue Raja, he is. They make a joke about it several times. He's like basically his persona is he's being a nerd for like the Indian culture that was when India became like a commonwealth of England.
Yeah.
So he's like an otaku but of Indian culture. Um doesn't wear any blue, so his name doesn't make any sense. And he throws forks.
Oh, yes. He's
Um
not Stabby Man.
yeah. Although he
He's
does
knife.
throw a spoon one time. But yeah, he throws forks. Sometimes very well, sometimes he misses. There is the spleen, played by Paul Rubens, who is the master of farting. He was cursed by he was cursed by a gypsy woman because he blamed her for farting when he did it. And so if you pull his finger, he can release like targeted farts.
Yeah. Precision farting.
Yeah. Anyone who is interested in this movie is now questioning why we like this movie. I can tell.
Or not.
Yeah. There's Kel Mitchell as the Invisible Boy, who is only invisible if you're not looking at him. And the last one I want to highlight is Baby Bowler, played by Janine Garofalo, who has a sentient bowling ball of her dad. One of my favorite jokes in the movie, which it took me until I was an adult to like really find this funny, is they ask her, "Did you put your dad's head in there?" And he's like, "No, the guy at the pro shop did it." So just the idea that she went to like a bowling shop and she's like, "Yeah, can you encase my dad's head in a bowling ball, please?" And it gives him power, and it gave him powers. He can control. He's able to like fly around with it. Um. So yeah, like we said at the premise of the movie, this is about there is the big superhero in town is Captain Amazing, and I love Captain Amazing so much. This is probably my favorite Greg Kinnear role. Um,
Yeah.
he's basically Superman. It's you know what? He's basically Booster Gold, where
Yeah.
like except without the character development. Where if Booster Gold just never became like an actual hero, he was just like, yeah, I'm just here for fame and money, which he's already rich. So it's even more funnier that he's like this corporate hero or maybe, you know what? Some lore, because they never explain it. Maybe that's why Lance Hunt, so he has a billionaire persona, just like Batman, named Lance Hunt, who nobody believes that Lance Hunt and Captain Amazing are the same person because Lance Hunt wears glasses and Captain Amazing doesn't. And see, Lance Hunt couldn't take off his glasses because then he wouldn't be able to see.
Right. And
But
do you think of Captain Amazing a bit like Homelander?
not really, because Captain Amazing isn't violent. He's
Right.
he's just selfish. But yeah, the boy is kind that's another thing too, that, like, you can say this movie's before its time. It kinda gets into the idea of, like, commercialized heroes, because Captain
Yeah.
Amazing, he's emblazoned with, like, various corporate sponsors, including Pepsi, and as a result of him defeating all the big villains, he's stuck to defeating smaller gangs like the Red Eyes, led by Artie Lang, which I have a funny story about Artie Lang in this movie. Apparently, his mother called him and his sister were going to go see the movie because he was in it, and after his scene they asked him, "Hey, are you in this movie anymore?" And he said no, and they left because they did not like the movie. um and so as a result of this, he loses his Pepsi sponsorship, which gives him the great idea to find one of the few big villains that are left alive and get him released from the mental asylum. And the villain is, of course, Casanova Frankenstein, played by Jeffrey Rush, who I think this was his first big American movie. Do you remember him in anything before this?
Well, he had gotten an Oscar, uh, which so he was like coming from a big uh, yeah. Let's see, when was his Oscar? His Oscar was
I know he was an Australian actor, and so
right.
this is basically
So
when he turned
Shine.
into a Hollywood actor.
So he was Oscar nominated. Oh no, he won the best Oscar for Shine, and so
Okay.
he that was in '96. So he had some Oscar cred coming in, and so this was him slumming. But God bless him, Casanova Frankenstein is a fantastic role, and
Yeah.
him that moment of him laughing at the damage to his stretch Corvette that the mystery men pull off in their first confrontation.
Yeah.
That great villain moment when he's like, "Oh, these little peons have tried to irk me by messing up my stretch Corvette. So I will be sure to enjoy dismantling them. There will be great pain." And then, of course, the big surprise over halfway through the movie, in the darkest comic moment. I mean, right? Is
Yeah.
is that Casanova Frankenstein doesn't kill his longtime adversary, Captain Amazing,
Yeah.
and
Captain
that
Amazing comes to his house to confront him, and because Captain Amazing just he's like, "Oh, yeah, I forgot. You have this trap and you have this trap." And then he grabs a pen and he's like, "What's this?" And he's like, "Oh, it's quite," and Cassidy Frickett's like, "Oh, it's quite a cool little gizmo." He's like, "Oh, really?" And and he sprays chloroform himself and gets captured for the rest of the movie, which then leads into the moment you're about to bring
yes,
up.
yes, the super dark moment that really kind of like draws into question, can we still support our mystery men after their rescue mission of Captain Amazing goes so wrong?
And it's like it's horrific too. It's not even just like an oops thing. It's just like, oh my god, that's terrifying.
I know, it's enough to traumatize any children watching the movie. I mean, that's horrifying what happens to Captain Amazing, and the fact that it was an accident caused by the mystery men. Now, granted, the machinery that causes the death is Casanova Frankenstein's machine. It's just they don't know how to properly shut it off, and so they trigger it. And so then once Casanova Frankenstein has his other villainous groups, including Michael Bay, come and visit him, and CeeLo Green, and he brings them downstairs to where he's got Captain America or Captain Amazing secured. He's surprised to find he's been murdered by while he was serving his guests. And what does he find? He finds a fork laying by the basement window, proving, or making him remember the damage done to his Corvette. Aha! That same kind of fork that had been expertly thrown so to lock all their doors, so that the spleen's fart would stay in the car longer. That was brilliant. Ah, amazing.
So
Oh,
it's
did you have you watched the deleted scenes? There are
I've
several.
I've watched one of them, and so they kind of set up this character named the Sphinx. So
Yeah, 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 that's my favorite one.
to explain a little bit because we got ahead of ourselves. So basically, the three heroes, the Shoveler, Mister Furious, and Blue Raja. Mister Furious figures out that Captain Amazing was captured, so they decide, hey, we're gonna be the heroes now, and so they recruit a team. And earlier in the movie, they say that like, oh, we should get the Sphinx, and it's like, oh, who's the Sphinx? Oh, he's terribly mysterious, and like he has the ability to cut guns with his mind. And so eventually, after they attack Casanova Frankenstein's limo, they're confronted by the Disco Boys, who is Captain Casanova Frankenstein's main henchman, and the Sphinx does actually cut the guns in half, and he decides to take him under his wing and be their leader. And he's played by Wes Studi, who is most famous for being Neytiri's dad in Avatar, and for being the main villain in The Last of the Mohicans. He plays Magua. Um, Dude plays like a lot of native roles, and as someone who is part Native American, it's kind of nice to see the native guy like not have to, even though he's playing a wise character, he's not directly playing like the stereotypical like Native American person. So that was like
Right.
kind of nice. If anything, that's implied he's Mexican.
Right, right, right. Because the deleted scene is the one time we see him out of costume, and I thought that was great. I wish they had left that in there because it appears that he works at a Mexican restaurant as a guy that's cleaning off tables, right, and
Yeah.
dishes.
Which because of that scene, I'm wondering if it's implied, oh yeah, he's been watching him and that's like how he like figures out about him, or it's just a coincidence. And it's just a funny reveal later that oh yeah, that was the guy there. They also cut Luis Guzman out of the movie.
Oh,
Basically, they go to the restaurant thinking and speaking in code, thinking they're gonna go meet the Sphinx, and then they end up just accidentally ordering food and eating. But no, that's the only deleted scene I saw.
yeah. I feel like there's some others, but that's the one that I remember.
Yeah.
And but now, actually, did the when you were listening to the commentary, did they talk about how they reshot the ending?
Yes. So they did it. They so I heard two different ways of how the original one ended. Um, I think so. Basically, there's a giant disco ball there, and they were originally they had Hank Azaria like use the disco ball in order to like shoot a laser into the fraculator as it's called. Um, but I guess like the test audiences didn't like the ending, so they made more of like a heroic ending where the baby bowler uses her dad to destroy it, and you think, oh no, he sacrificed himself, but it's okay because he's fine at the end. He's just kind of burnt.
Yeah, and then and what they'd also thought about was, and which would have worked because they set it up brilliantly earlier in the movie when they go to see their weapons supplier who makes non-lethal weapons, uh,
Dr. Heller. It's the
Dr.
second
Hiller.
Dr. Heller of today.
Yes, played by musician Tom Waits, which is a brilliant cameo. He when they first meet him and they think, oh, he's just a lame mad scientist, we can't trust him, and he shows him a canned tornado, which basically you can throw it up and it just produces a short lasting tornado that will disrupt, some people you need to disrupt. And so the ending, I think they had thought about using the canned tornado to destroy the defraculator,
Yeah,
and but which would have been good, but they decided to use the bowler's bowling ball with her dad's head to take it apart, which is fine. They and he even survives. They I guess they use him thinking he's not going to make it, but he
yeah,
survives as a bowling ball.
yeah. I really like. I think this is the first time I saw Tom Watts in a movie, and so he was just. It's like, wow, this is a really weird character he's playing. You're like, oh no, that's just him. He just played himself. Um, But I like that he specifically he makes non-lethal weapons, which even his weapon even these weapons seem kind of dangerous. So he has like the cannon tornado, and they have the blame thrower, which if you shoot it at people, it just caught everyone caught in its wave blames the other person for their situation. And oh my god, I forgot what it's called, but it's like a gun that if you shoot it at people, it shrinks their clothes.
Yes, it's a shrinker. I think he just says it's a shrinker, and that's is brilliant. A lot of good ideas with Dr. Heller. Yeah, what
Speaking
you
of
need.
like speaking of cool cameos, another one of my favorite scenes of the movie is when they're recruiting heroes. They have like a barbecue. There's this recurring storyline with the shoveler where he's married and he has like a wife and kids and like he has like the nice suburban home, and so him being a hero kind of keeps impacting his life and his marriage. So that they're like, okay, we need like a good area in order to bring in other heroes. Who has a pool? And he's just like, oh no, 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 no. And just cuts to like this big like barbecue party where they're inviting other heroes to come and sign up with them. And before I get back on the cameo thing, what I really think is funny is the fact that like all the mystery men, they're like very like crummy superheroes. But the people that come to this barbecue are even worse than them. So it's like it's the fact that like super being a superhero is so big in this like movies universe that like the mystery men aren't even the bottom of the barrel.
Right.
Of course, the scene leads to a couple of cameos. I have a funny anecdote about one of them. So the first cameo is Dane Cook as the waffler,
Yeah.
who has this truth syrup, and his abilities seem to be he can burn people's faces with it, or he can smack people's face with a waffle iron. Um, My favorite part of Dane Cook being in this movie is in the commentary, because obviously this was recorded like, in like 2000 or 99. Um, so King Usher is like, and then we have the Waffler played by oh, I can't really remember his name, but I don't know. This guy has some good stuff. So it's just funny to think like 5 years after this, Dane Cook became like a really huge comedian, and
Right.
then quickly wore out his welcome in most people's lists.
Yeah.
But you know who he does say by name is
Ooh.
Doug Jones.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
After the Waffler, you were introduced to Pencilhead and Son of Pencilhead. And so it's like something now where it's like because Doug Jones now is starting to do more like out of makeup work. Um, it was even at the point to where when Doug Jones is on what we do in the shadows, he played someone with like heavy vampire makeup. But in the later seasons, he got like rejuvenated, and so he has like it's Doug Jones out of the makeup now. Um, So it was very rare to see him like not like because Doug Jones is like a famous like he does like a lot of monsters. He was Abe Sapien in Hellboy. He was the Fawn. He works with Guillermo del Toro a lot. He was the Fawn in Pan's Labyrinth, and he was the I forget what he's. I don't want to say the Gill Man because he's not technically the Gill Man, but he's the creature in Shape of Water. Um, so Kinka Unsure knew him because he has him in like he was in a lot of commercials, which made me think that Kika Usher did the Mac Tonight commercials because Doug Jones was Mac Tonight.
Oh.
Which, if you're around my age, that's probably the cutoff when you know what the hell Mac Tonight is. It was like an old McDonald's mascot. Um, but yeah, it was cool to see Kinka Usher mention him by name because like at this point, like no one knew who the hell Doug Jones was.
Yeah.
Um, and then another little cameo: Simpsons writer and stand-up comedian Dana Gould plays Squeegee Man. It's kind of hard for me to look at this movie objectively because I just, I watched this as a kid, so it might be nostalgia, but honestly, I think this is just a legitimately funny movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got some dad jokes. It's got a few cringe moments, but it's solid. I watch it a lot.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of fun, and but yeah, a lot nostalgia definitely, and just I had very admittedly unabashedly a fan of lame superheroes and obscure characters, and this cast and everything they it does quite a good job. It would be hard for me to pick my favorite line because it's I feel like the movie's endlessly quotable.
Yeah.
Um, whereas with Kraven the Hunter, obviously the best line, let me see if I can remember it correctly, is my grandmother died shortly after that, and I didn't see her again.
I can't believe that was in the Death out of them. It reminds me of in Madam Web. There was the funny line in the trailer was my mom was researching. I forget what it was. Hold on, let me look it up.
You're researching spiders in the jungle,
Amazon when she died. Yeah.
right, right before she had me, right
Yeah.
when she had me. Oh, Madam Web.
So yeah, it kind of called back to that line. And it's like, wow, I can't believe they left it on them. And that was ADR. They purposely put that in the movie. They could have got rid of that line. Um, yeah, Mystery Man. If I had to think of like a favorite line, I honestly can't think of one.
Yeah,
What
there's so many
what
good. I do like the hey dad, I'm going to my room with three strange men.
and his dad doesn't say anything. Uh, I there's like stupid lines that I quote. Um, when the Mystery Men try to go save Captain Amazing, they're arguing, and like Captain Amazing, like you are a moron, moron. I say that a lot when like I play games and I get frustrated online. Uh,
You dress in the manner of a male prostitute.
yeah, that's good. Oh, you know what it might be? It's because um the Sphinx, his wisdom is like very like generic fortune cookie stuff.
Right.
By the way, I forgot to say West Studi said he really enjoyed being in the film. He had like a lot of fun on
Yay.
it, which was
Yeah,
nice.
he's great.
Yeah. I think he was just happy to be like he was like, "Oh my god, I'm in this film with all these funny comedians. This is a lot of fun."
Yeah.
Um so he his was very like, "You guys shouldn't be like the wolf pack. You should be like the six pack." Or
Yes.
I believe
He's
I
only
believe in the power of my teammates. I believe in my teammates' powers. Stuff like that. So there's a part where Mr. Furious, played by Ben Stiller. We haven't really talked about him, but Ben Stiller is great in this movie.
yeah, he's
Um,
arguably the lead, sure, in an
which it's
otherwise
like,
ensemble.
yeah, which it's like, it's weird this movie like bombed just because like this came after There's Something About Mary, and that made him a huge star.
Mhm.
Um, but he's like fed up with the Sphinx, and the Sphinx is like, oh my god, here, so I want to look it up.
Yeah, I remember a lot of guys said that they went to see Mystery Men because they were William H. Macy fans.
Oh
They
yeah,
thought, well, if he's
like
in
oh
it,
my
it'll
god, the
be
guy
good.
from Fargo.
Yeah. And then they were complaining they didn't like it. And I was like, well, obviously, just being a William H. Macy fan isn't enough. I think William H. Macy is amazing.
Yeah, I like him
He's
as the
the
shoveler.
shoveler is one of the best characters, period, ever. The shoveler is fantastic. I
Okay,
shovel well.
all right, I found the line. So Sphinx says, "But until you learn to master your rage," Mr. Furious interrupts him and says, "Your rage will become your master." And there's a pause, and he's like, "That's what you're gonna say, though, right?" And the Sphinx just kind of like pauses, and he like turns his head. And he's like, "Not necessarily," and he walks away. Just West Studi's delivery on that line
Yes,
of just like
yes,
that's the first time he's ever been stumped by one of his students. It's just so funny.
right, right. It caught on to his format, and that was great. That was fantastic. It's really the best moment for the Ben Stiller character
Uh,
that he is like, he's actually clever enough to figure out where he's going. And but yes, my favorite West Studi line that I quote a lot is when he's trying to help the shoveler, and he says, "How many weapons do you have?" And the shoveler says, "Well, just one." He's like, "No, you have you have hands and feet. You know you can lash out with everything, just like the octopus that plays the drums." And I love that.
yeah.
It's such a non sequitur. We're like, well, no, the octopus that plays the drums can lash out with every limb. So yes,
Um, but yeah, as you're kind of saying, like I really I like William H Macy. I just like William H Macy in like everything. So,
yes,
but this is probably the only movie where he ever got to play a badass. because he has one scene where he's beating up disco boys with a shovel, and I
Yeah.
love in the scene he like gets a shovel, like he can't use a shovel, and he's about to get hit, and he pulls out a trowel.
Yeah, yes. Oh, so good. And then a shovel would be a pretty good thing to fight with, actually. It would be
Yeah,
pretty, work.
he's
And then
probably the
and
most
then when
competent.
they're first faced with the disco boys, and the disco boys pull out their guns, their revolvers. I love that, Hank Azaria is like, "Oh, so you're into disco, but you got guns? There's no theme here at all."
Like one of them like has like a pipe and a chain. He's like, "Look, check out the
Right.
guy with the pipe. What are you, the disco plumber?" I have a fun fact for you about the shoveler. So originally, one of the guys who like almost like directed this movie was Danny DeVito,
Oh,
and Danny DeVito also wanted to star as the shoveler, but apparently him and the studio like really disagreed on who was going to do the soundtrack, and that was enough for him to be like, okay, yeah, I'm sorry,
oh,
I can't do this movie. Um,
oh, that's too bad.
as much
That's in
yeah, as much as I love Danny DeVito, I'm kind of happy William H Macy got it, to be honest.
and I like the music. I'm quite happy. There's a lot of '90s music references coming on, just for little bits. When I was watching it again recently, I noticed that the song choice that they had just for the first few seconds when Janine Garofalo's character first walks on, they're playing a Jill Sobule song from the '90s called "Rainy Day Parade," and the opening lines is "I used to have the world in my handbag." And of course she's walking in with her bowling bag, and it's just perfect. There's so many of those moments throughout with both '70s era songs and '90s era songs. In fact, there was one '90s summer hit that was huge, and it's still to this day, I believe, played at baseball games. You know the big hit from this one, Stephen?
Oh yeah, All Star by
All
Smash
Star.
Mouth.
Yeah, yeah.
It says a song that has definitely eclipsed the movie in terms of popularity.
Yes,
It,
that's the true question.
yeah. And it's funny too because if you watch I'm sure there's a lot of people, like a lot of kids who like watch like the music video to All Star, and they're like, "What is this movie? And is this part of the thing?" And it's just like it's funny that the music video is even Mystery Men related. I think it's funny too that like obviously they didn't know it was going to be as huge of a song as it was, so it plays in the movie for like 5 seconds, like a montage starts, and like there's like two scenes, and then it's immediately over, and then it comes back at the end credits.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
Shrek was able to steal its thunder by putting it in the opening.
Nice.
So yeah, overall, I quite really love Mystery Men. I think it's a shame that it's kind of a cult classic now. I think like a lot of like hardcore superhero fans look very fondly on it. Um, it's like a very much like a movie for nerds. It's like Galaxy Quest, but I feel like Galaxy Quest has kind of like gotten out of its cult bubble and is like more for like general. It's just a movie that's beloved by general audiences. But Mystery
Right.
Men is pretty much just for superhero nerds.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the same vein where it's like Galaxy Quest was like it's perfect for the sci-fi nerd. And this I feel is like a perfect like comedy for the superhero nerd, especially because like you're saying, like there's just so many, it was so like ahead of its time in like a lot of ways with what it was making jokes about.
Yeah. And it fully embraces that universe of lore that you have in a superhero movie, just like Galaxy Quest totally embraces a Star Trek-esque universe. So
Yeah.
that Galaxy Quest feels like a Star Trek movie. In fact, one of the better ones.
Yeah. It's kind of like it's like that with the Orville, where the Orville is the best Star Trek show that's been
Yeah,
made
yeah.
recently.
It started off as a parody, but it's actually better. Or just
Uh
as good, if not better.
Well, I think I feel like Seth MacFarlane did that on purpose. He just kind of snuck it. He's like, "Oh yeah, no, it's Family Guy in space," and it's like, "Okay, they're not paying attention. Do the serious Star Trek show now."
Yeah,
So yeah.
so, of these 2, I would have to go with, Mystery Men over Kraven the Hunter,
Oh
sure.
yeah, Mystery Men's a good movie compared to Craven, yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's our balance of cinema. That's,
Yeah,
we've got that, but then putting, Kraven the Hunter up against its Sonyverse movies, I mean, it's definitely better than for to me, it's better than Madam Web.
yeah.
That's the high and the low, and I'll have to steel myself for a Venom marathon, and whenever it's Morbin time, when I get around to that one to see how they all rank.
I feel like you might enjoy Venom. So yeah, this was the first episode of Balance of Power. Probably rambled a lot more than we should have. But hey, I hope you guys had a fun time listening. We really want to explore kind of like the two sides of cinema because for every good movie there has to be a bad movie. If there's only good movies, then like it's not really art, is it? You kind of need to have those like failures or like those things that like it just didn't work out or it didn't work out but there's some kind of merit in here. And that's what we really want to explore here. So thank you so much, Todd, for being here.
Yeah, this was great.
Yeah. Sorry I made you watch Craven.
No, no, this was good. Like I said, I enjoyed a lot of it, and I had an understanding for its failures because like I know they're doing it for the kind of guys like us that like the superhero movies and the comic books, and they're like, oh, okay, you're trying to throw us a bone. I could see it. It could have been better, but yeah, yeah.
We haven't discussed what movies we want to do for next episode, so there is no preview. So whatever we do next time, I hope you guys enjoy. You guys have a pleasant day and see you next time. We need to work on how we end these. I don't.